So what are the latest developments on the anti-government protests taking part in the streets of Cuba right now? Many thousands of people taking to the streets and saying no to the communist dictatorship of Cuba. What are those latest details? Well, I'd love to fill you in on them. I'd love to tell you that people are chatting about it in coffee shops across Canada and with their neighbors and saying, oh, did you hear the news? Here's the latest in Cuba. Oh yeah, this story really matters and so forth. I would love to tell you all of that, but that's not what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is crickets, relatively speaking, in terms of the media coverage, in terms of the political discussion, the discussion among the elite classes, and just the basic sense of urgency and amplification behind this story. It is remarkable that you have many thousands of people taking to the streets saying enough is enough to so much of what's going on in Cuba right now. You've got this genuine call for freedom, for liberty, for democracy, and then you got people in countries like Canada kind of turning a blind eye to it, not really concerned about it. The story just not being amplified. What on earth is going on here? Because there are so many other examples of stories that are unfolding anywhere in the world, the minutiae of American politics, for instance, and every little bit of it, every step by step, we're fed here in Canada by US media, by our media, everybody talking about it nonstop, unpacking on social media. Everybody can tell you every little detail of these stories when it's sort of thrust upon you as an urgent story that must be amplified. But here, when it comes to what's going on in Cuba, potentially a historic process right now, you're hearing relatively little. A little bit of coverage about the basics, but that is it. Not much from political leaders either. I mean, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, he initially offered this very weak statement on it. He sort of had to be shamed into condemning the violent crackdowns that were going on. People have actually been killed in the responses to these protests, and well over 100 people are missing. They've been disappeared. It's unclear what's happened to them. I mean, this is something that the world should be watching, because one of the things that press freedom gives you in these shaky countries, in these regimes where, well, anything could happen if you don't have the freedom of the press, is, well, bad things do happen, which is why in these moments of revolution, of resistance, of people taking to the streets, you want to be attentive to what's going on in all of this. I mean, this is why people say you've got to document what's going on in China right now, why democracy activists in Iran, they say you've got to pay attention, we need cameras here so everybody can see what's happening. So you can hold governments to account and officials to account so they feel like they cannot persecute their own people. And yet, a sort of lack of general interest in getting behind covering and paying attention to what's going on in Cuba right now. It's really disappointing. It's really shameful that Justin Trudeau is not doing more, is not saying more. US President Joe Biden not doing a lot, not really siding with those dissident communities in Cuba who say, come on, we need liberty, we need freedom in this country. Could it be because this is more of a left-wing regime, and that is why, and that whatever awful things that they do, yeah, well, you know, it's okay, it's for the good of the cause and so forth, we're going to downplay it, we're not going to talk about it too much. I don't know, but that certainly seems to be what's going on here. Incredibly shameful that so many stories of lesser consequence are amplified so much. This story, people just aren't paying attention to it as much as they should be.